I've played Toontown too much. I really mean it. I'm talking thousands of hours. And you'd have to ask, what would bring someone to dedicate so much of their life to one game? Besides an addiction. It's not an addiction, I can stop whenever I want to. But it's true, I have played this game for most of my life. But in order to better understand why I pretty much dedicated my entire 20s to this toony, colorful game, we're gonna have to go back. And I mean all the way back. Back to the beginning of Toontown Online.
Well, here's your chance. Jump online and straight into Toontown, where the city limits are as wide as your imagination.
Now, if you don't know the story, the original Toontown was pitched to Disney by this guy named Jesse Schell as an online theme park. To him, it was always meant to be a video game, but they had to make Disney think it was something like Disneyland from your home computer, and that was really the only way it was able to get off the ground. But what was built from that, and what the community made it into, are two very different things. Although the definition of the game was to be an MMO, it was more so a place for community. People hopped on just to spend time with each other. They'd go fishing with a random bear they don't know, or come across some random cats in a picnic area and get curious about what they're doing and have that shape their personality for the rest of their lives. Groups were created, friendships were made, and some people got into relationships with pink cats named Princess Twinkletoes. Not me, of course. Never. It was a beautiful several years of building a terrific community. But alas, all good things must come to an end eventually, and the cause of death? Well, many articles will attribute it to the decline in revenue, which is mostly true but doesn't necessarily paint the whole picture. The game was getting old. It had a clearly outdated gameplay loop, and very little online games could make the subscription model work. And while Disney could have poured more time and effort into adapting the game to fit the evolving market, it wasn't making enough money for the executives to actually care. So over the course of several years, it just received less and less attention. Now they could have basically just left it and allowed anyone who wanted to still pay for it enjoy the barren landscape that it was becoming. But because more and more staff were being laid off from the team, the game didn't really have security. And that's when the hackers came in and just ran rampant through the entire server. It would take resources to try to fix these exploits, but since Disney didn't have the money allocated for it, they just shut it down. So to think Toontown was shut down to focus more on Club Penguin is a bit of a stretch, since that ended up shutting down too not long after 2017. It came down to simply that Disney wasn't interested in this market and didn't see it profitable enough to continue. But what truly made Toontown special is that, for the community, they fell in love with it more than anyone even working on the project could have ever imagined. When a community loves a game so much they become annoying about it, you know that's a special community. Like, think of Undertale or Sonic, but on a much smaller scale. Now mix that passion with a group of people that kind of know how to code, have the ability to rent an online server, and had the Toontown Online source code dropped in their lap. And that's how Toontown Rewritten was kind of born. Before Toontown Rewritten became what we know it as now, I actually found the original post from Joey19982 on MMO Central forums when the game was first getting its footing. Toontown Rewritten is a community server for Disney's Toontown Online. A team of skilled toons, including myself, have spent the past month engineering their own implementation of the Toontown server architecture so that this game can continue. This is not a bunch of empty promises or a remake Toontown Online. This is the exact same game that we have all known and loved for a decade now. However, this time it'll be ran by toons for toons. And with that, there was a lot of questions. Some of them very obvious, like, where do I sign up? And this was before you couldn't just hop on and play. You had to either be invited into the alpha or get a key from a giveaway. But you can see a lot of the foundation of what made Toontown what it is now through this post. No monthly membership, completely volunteer, the ethics of copying Disney even though Disney was gonna throw away the game anyway, and of course, will new content be added in the future? I don't think anyone could have imagined where it would go from here. It's almost ironic that Toontown Rewritten became the exact blueprint of what Stop Killing Games is trying to fight for now. And this was a decade before that was even started. When a company is finished supporting the game, they leave the code to the community to be able to be salvaged and built off of, without the intention of monetizing it in any way. Purely a community-driven passion project that will finally subside when the community says it's time. So although there was no promise to add on to the game in any meaningful way, or even that it would survive long enough to be playable, the Toontown community held out hope and kept working on it. And at this point, this story has been told 100 times, so I appreciate you making it this far into the video, literally listening to something you already know. Fast forward to now, the game is still alive and well 10 years later. They have dozens of volunteer staff members working on supporting the community every single day. The number of accounts created for the game is in the millions, and there are always hundreds, if not thousands of players on the game at any given time. There were more people on Toontown Rewritten than were on Concord when that came out. And I could stop right here and this would have already proved my point that Toontown has already outgrew what Disney ever created it to be. A game that was literally a shell of an MMO turned into a collective community project that far exceeded what anyone could have predicted it to be. But also considering that the community is filled with talented artists, coders, and visionaries, it still grew into something even bigger. Welcome to the Toontown genre. Toontown Rewritten wasn't the only group of teenagers in a garage with the idea of bringing Toontown back. They just happened to be the most popular. Other groups tried their hands at trying to revitalize the game with their own visions and ideals, though granted some of those included putting viruses and rats into the game, but there's also a reason those servers aren't really around anymore. I mean, some of them are, but their vision and passion for the game just kind of felt lackluster in comparison to the others. Like, I love the idea of fleshing out the racing and golfing, but maybe you should also make sure it's functional before you release it to your 8 players.
What the heck? What happened? Look at my golf club!
There is one exception to this rule though, and that was Toontown Project Altus. Wait, no, that can't be right. So there was another private server called Project Altus that, albeit, had a pretty bad reputation at the time, but as it crumbled, it made way for one of the most unique Toontown experiences we had gotten thus far. Toontown Corporate Clash. Corporate Clash literally changed the game, not just metaphorically. I mean, changed so much of the game's code, features, and ultimately how we view Toontown. They weren't the first to add a new attack, but they did rebalance the entire battle system to allow a greater variety of what we may experience in battle. It used to be you hit a cog, the cog hits you, you hit the cog back, bada bing bada boom, you're done. But now, this game continued to grow over the years, expanding on its own ideas, and bringing us things that we never could have imagined would exist in a Toontown world. It's no understatement to say that Toontown had been taken to a whole new level. The boundaries of what was possible within Toontown encouraged and uplifted every corner of the community. Toontown Rewritten even made their game better and added new battle mechanics in response to give the project room to grow and evolve. Style-wise, this is something that you would believe was part of the original Toontown because it looks and feels like it, but behind the curtain, this innovation is something we would have never seen from Disney. And they're still continuing. Toontown Rewritten just had another Toonfest, a real-life celebration of Toontown where fans and community members get together to play games, dress up, and have fun. They've been doing this nearly every year since 2015, minus a couple years in the middle there, but that's not really their fault. Unrelated, I found this image on the internet. Crazy. And at this year's Toonfest, they still had even more tricks up their sleeves. Alright, so hopefully the green screen isn't also keying out the hoodie I'm wearing. Otherwise that'll look really awkward. But holy cannoli! I recorded most of this video before Toonfest happened, so I didn't actually know what they announced up until this point. But now that I'm recording the part about Toonfest, wow. So if you weren't there, because I was not, there were so many people that showed up to this year's Toonfest that in the panel room on Friday when they did their announcements, they had a double panel room, which means it was twice as big as all the others, and they still couldn't fit everyone inside. That is how dedicated this community is. One of their announcements was the fact that their next project is undecided yet, so if there's anything that we from the community want to see them work on, we can provide some ideas. So I've got one. Can you please work on adding some new golf courses and racetracks into the game? Because clearly the other servers can't seem to figure it out. So besides that, what did they actually talk about? New gags? I think they want to add new gag tracks because they mentioned it was something having to do with like status effects. And I don't really see that fitting in the current gag loadouts that they have. So maybe they're going to add like some offensive or defensive support gags, but that's like way down the road. They're also adding new streets and street layouts. That way they can connect better to clear coasts. And when showing off one of these streets, they showed off one of their new cog buildings. It's called the Joint Venture, and it's supposed to have 2 different cog types in it instead of 1. Ideally, this means that if you're doing tasks, if you need a boss bot building, this would still count as a boss bot building. They also talked about how they want to revamp the end of game tasks because right now the Lawbot and boss bot tasks suck. To put it nicely, they suck. They announced a brand new launcher that they've been working on for like 10 years, but it's almost done now and we have something that we can physically see and it looks fantastic. And on top of the makeshift campaign that they just did for Dr. Shirley and the red guy, what's his name? It's Lord Loud and Clear. I just looked it up. I didn't forget. I remembered. They're going to be doing 8 new campaigns through Makeshift, whether that's more plushies or actual merch. So before you're like, oh no, Disney's gonna step in, they've already done one of these and Corporate Clash has done 2. So it's all going to charity. So like, it's like Disney's like, okay, that's fine. There's probably a few other things that I'm missing right now. Oh yeah, duh. Clear coasts. They have a working alpha of the playground right now. And at Toonfest, they were allowing people to run around. There's like a dance floor in the middle of the playground where you can like dance and get jelly beans for it. And I don't know, the whole thing just, it looks pretty good if you ask me. I've said this for the past few years now. I think Toontown Rewritten got onto a really good track, and at this point, I don't really care how long they take with whatever they're working on. They're doing fantastic. Keep at it. But still add a skip button. Okay, we're going to continue on the rest of the video. If I forgot anything, leave a comment. Because I probably did. And just when you think that's the pinnacle of Toontown, you'd be so wrong. Toontown has evolved even further past that. It was no longer just MMOs and private servers, but something entirely new. A Japanese visual novel. Please don't click off the video. Released a few years ago by Civ, Toontown Rampa is a Danganronpa inspired game set in the Toontown world. And I sure did try it out. Bro, I don't think you can do that in Toontown. Oh, Coach Z would do it in an instant. I know he would. No. Whatever he's saying right now, this man is a killer. This wasn't the only non-MMO Toontown game either. If you're a speedrunner, or maybe just a fan of randomizers, you might have heard of a game called Archipelago. Something that took me 2 weeks to learn how to pronounce correctly. It was a shortened down way of playing Toontown, where you progress through the game by unlocking your laugh boosts, tasks, and gags by doing random activities like fishing or doing facilities. You could fish up a lure gag, or complete a toon task to earn the ability to fight the VP. And while you can just play this locally on your PC, it's Archipelago. It was made for friends. The game links everyone together, and before you know it, when you defeat an Office Bee, it unlocks your friend's Boss Bot suit. And then they have to complete a game of golf to unlock your other friend's Bullion Mint, which will unlock your final drop frame. And then it connects to other games outside of that too. So now, finding the Lost Chow in Sonic Adventure 2 unlocks the Sephiroth fight in Kingdom Hearts 2, which unlocks your ability to get tasks in Minnie's Melody Land. And that is a sentence I never thought I would say in this lifetime. But it still continues on top of that. What is the one genre of game that you may have never anticipated would have been Toontownified? And no, I don't mean an FPS. That one closed before it even opened. I'm talking about a Toontown roguelike. I can't even pretend like that's a big reveal. I previously made a video about this game and have not hidden how much I love it. Toontown the Grindworks took heavy inspiration from games like Binding of Isaac, but more specifically, Binding of Isaac. It's very Binding of Isaac-like. You begin the game as the mayor of Toontown and COVID spreader himself, Flippy, and you're basically just thrown right in and gotta figure it out for yourself. It's a very bold choice to allow the player to learn as they go, instead of just holding their hand and telling them the best way to play. I think more games should do that because it leads to more discovery and new creative strategies that the developers may not have thought of themselves. That is to say that this line of thinking was not intentional at all, and the creative lead just couldn't be bothered to flesh out the tutorial. But if you're watching this, Evan, I think that's an okay choice. You should just leave it that way. The gameplay loop consists of scaling facility floors, solving puzzles, and completing battles. Each of these rewards you with chests that adds to your arsenal of gags, accessories, and items. You continue to collect these all the way to the top and take on the final directors. Then, do it all again with a new toon with its own quirks and specialties. The beauty of this game is that it truly lives up to the spirit of a roguelike since every run is different. Sometimes you're barely making it out alive, and sometimes everything lines up and your firepower is so great that you're obliterating everything in one turn. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of this project. I'm constantly speedrunning it, so go play it. And the last version of Toontown I wanted to talk about today is, surprisingly, another roguelike.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are 2 of them.
This one is called Event Horizon, and if I'm understanding this correctly, it's more of a co-op adventure through a never-ending cog building. You still collect gags and power-ups while facing brand new cogs and utilizing new strategies. The game isn't out yet, so a lot of the details are still up in the air. But look at this trailer! Look at it! They got all these different themes and stuff. That's actually pretty dope. They were doing regular podcasts with updates on what they've been working on, and even more recently there's been battle music released with some of the floor's aesthetics being showcased. Like, I see it now. I see why people are hyped for this. Could you imagine looking at this, or any of the other projects that I've discussed way back in 2005, and imagining that this is where Toontown was going in the next 20 years? And the amazing part is that all of this was built off of the back of the community. There's no big business, no money, and no Disney. Just hardworking, passionate players of the game, sharing their art and creating a version of Toontown of their own image. I've loved this game ever since I picked it up over 20 years ago, and although I really don't touch it as much as I used to anymore, it will always hold a place in my heart. And if you found this video, there's a good chance that you feel the same way too. So with that being said, I don't personally have anything else to add, but if there's anything that I missed that you would like to add to this, by all means, please share all of your stories down in the comment section below. I love seeing how much this one game has created such a united and creative community. So with that being said, check out the other videos on the screen, leave a like if you did enjoy, and again, if our Team Water campaign reaches over $500, I'll make another Toontown video. So go donate to a good cause.